Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Where has the summer gone? Confession time, I have reluctantly stopped wearing my shorts and headed into my winter lounge pants, joggers, or sweatpants, as my friends in the US would say. My summer holiday is now just a distant memory, and we're now thinking about pumpkin spice lattes, and it's only a matter of weeks before we come under attack from those dreaded Black Friday and Cyber Monday emails that will just clog our inbox up for over a month. And one of the things that I've noticed over the last few years is the rise of buy now, pay later solutions. They've exploded in popularity, especially during the peak of the pandemic when online spending saw record levels. And now that stores are fully reopening across the world, consumers are looking to get a fix of the in-store shopping experience. However, many still want the option to finance their purchases with a buy now, pay later solution from platforms such as Klarna and Sezzle. But I want to learn more about how it will improve the touchless experience at the register with tap-to-pay tools and the improvement of the overall contactless experience. And also how big tech companies such as Apple, Google and Amazon are all hopping on this buy now, pay later bandwagon too, because they can see the growth potential in it. So we have lots to talk about today, so buckle up and hold on tight, because today I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Minnesota in the US, where Killian Brackey, CTO of Sezzle, is waiting to talk with us about all this and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me on here, Neil. My name is Killian Brackey. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and one of the co-founders of the team at Sezzle. I'm a lifetime software engineer and tinkerer. I love picking things apart and figuring out how they work, breaking them, and then figuring out how to fix them and make them work again.
So you are a lifetime software engineer and someone that's always loved tinkering. But I've got to ask, can you share your origin story? Where did your passion for tech come from, and what was it that put you on this path?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my growing up, I ended up saving all of my money from mowing lawns in fourth grade to buy my first iPod. And it was the first iPod that had the click wheel or the buttons on the click wheel as opposed to right underneath the screen. Yeah. And at the time, a lot of software was not super easy to get those things up and running. And so I was fascinated on figuring out how that iPod worked, what went into it, what types of technology it was replacing. And from there is really where my love for tech continued when I got my first TI calculator and I started learning how to program on that and learning TI Basic and starting to automate a lot of the different things that I was doing on problem sets in math and science classes, and starting to build games on those calculators. And that's really where a lot of my passion started to take off on really the power that you have in tech and how accessible it is to learn those if it is something you want to self-teach.
And of course, that path led you to Sezzle, where you are now. So can I ask you to tell the listeners a little bit more about the problems that you're solving with your technology, just for people that are hearing about you for the first time?
Yeah, so at Sezzle, we're on a mission to financially empower the next generation. We're a buy now, pay later solution that's offering customers the ability to pay over the course of 6 weeks in interest-free installment payments. So they'll pay 25% the day of the purchase, 25% every 2 weeks for the next 6 weeks, interest-free. And the way that the product works to have that 0% financing is we're partnering with retailers, both online and in store, for them to pay a higher payment processing fee and ultimately fund that interest-free installment plan for the customer.
And I've got to ask, what's the big difference between yourselves and, let's say, Klarna? Is it slightly different?
Yeah, it's slightly different. I think we all have small modifications in our products, and we're also live with different parts of our products in different markets. We're using non-traditional underwriting data, not traditional credit data, to underwrite and get customers into our product. But we do view ourselves as a credit product, and we're working with our customers to help them on their financial journey. And we want to be a co-pilot with them So our core product doesn't look at credit score or affect credit score, but we do have a Sezzle Up product that will actually allow customers to upgrade, see what their available spending power is within our product, and will then be reporting all of their repayment behavior to the credit bureaus to help them grow their credit score.
And the name Sezzle, is there a story behind that too? I feel there's got to be.
Yeah, you'd think there might be, but actually, there are plenty of companies out there that don't have a name that's descriptive of necessarily what they do.
Yeah.
It's really more around the marketing and the branding of the product. And for us, we wanted something that was short and catchy and that could easily be translated into both a verb and a noun, saying, I could have paid in full, but I Sezzled it. Or, I just signed up for the account today and now I'm a Sezzler. And so, we see some of those things start to catch on in social media and in some of our own marketing.
Love that. And just to set the scene, can you tell me a bit more about how the buy now, pay later theme there has just exploded in popularity over the last few years, especially during the peak of the pandemic where online spending saw record levels. Can you set the scene and expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, particularly in the US market, which is one of our core markets at Sezzle, we saw that there was some data from TransUnion showing there was a pretty large gap in credit card applications from millennials to younger generations. And a lot of that was coming out of the Card Act of 08 and 09 here in the US, where it made it illegal for customers to have a credit card unless they were 21 years of age, and made it explicitly illegal to market credit cards on college campuses. And ultimately, it was just pushing the average age of credit card applicants to higher. And so people were really starting that credit journey a little later in life, which is where really that large need in the market was created. And so that's the hypothesis that we had when we launched the product, was that we wanted to help fill that gap, not just for younger customers and consumers out there, but for anybody that is looking to get access to purchasing power that they might not have from their traditional credit history. And, ultimately what our customers are looking for is really transparent purchasing power that has some self-contained budgeting tools built into it that they don't have from their existing financial tools.
Wow, I had no idea that it was illegal over in the US for under 21-year-olds to have a credit card there, especially when you think of just about anywhere you go. If you get a hotel room, for example, first thing they ask for is a credit card to swipe, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you have to have a full-time job, a cosigner, or full-time job generally in order to get a credit card here in the US. So under 21. So it's very common that you don't have access to a credit card unless you are not in school and have a full-time job or someone that would sign for you.
And of course, now the stores have fully reopened across the US and indeed across the world. Consumers are still looking to get a fix of that in-store shopping experience that they've missed out on. So from your perspective, how have things evolved, and why are big tech companies such as Apple, Google and Amazon all hopping on that buy now, pay later bandwagon too, do you think?
Yeah, so customers definitely still value in-store experiences. We at Sezzle started primarily as an online payment option and have definitely seen a lot of volume from online start to shift in store. And we're also seeing demand from our merchant base to shift a lot of this to in-store transactions as well. And so ultimately what we've been working to build is a virtual card-based solution that is working in Apple and Google wallets, where customers can push a multi-use virtual card to their Apple and Google wallets, and that will, when presented in store at a terminal by NFC, will break that purchase into interest-free installment payments just like it would online. And so we're seeing that is being taken up and really well accepted by customers. I think part of the reason we see big tech companies getting into the space, Amazon, Apple and Google already have their wallets, and they're looking at continuing to expand those wallet opportunities and NFC payments in store. I think with Amazon hopping onto the bandwagon, it just goes to show that this is something that customers are asking for relatively ubiquitously across the brands that they like to shop at. We're starting to see that customers are having a true preference shift in the way that they're paying. And that's where we're going to continue to see a lot of growth, I think, in the space.
And I'm curious, do you think we'll see these big tech giants eventually demolishing the playing field through their partnerships or acquiring smaller startups with those capabilities just to own the market long term? Is that something you think could happen?
Yeah, I think when you look at the big tech partners today, what they have a lot of are customers, but the buy now later pay later space is really a two-sided network with both merchants and customers on the network, given the financing is paid for by those merchants. And so I think while the big tech partners already have that large customer base, ultimately they're going to be the technology platform that's going to help power providers like Sezzle and others in the space that have these partnerships with merchants and are working closely with them to market the product and become not only a payment option, but a sales channel for them. And so I think that the pure play buy now pay later providers actually still have a really great space. And I imagine that with the tech giants, there's going to be continued partnership, not necessarily consolidation, to get the product to market in front of customers and merchants alike.
And one of the things that put you guys on my radar was your tap to pay technology. So can you tell the listeners a little bit about that and what Sezzle is essentially doing to move the needle with this technology?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you're looking at the point of sale financing in store today, there really are a couple different categories of that. You have point of sale financing post purchase, and that's where you might use a traditional credit card you already have. And the banks are allowing you to ultimately refinance that instead of on your monthly billing cycle with your credit card onto a different 6, 12 plus month solution, but that's after your purchase. And you also see some single use experiences. Those are either going to be single use virtual cards that are being pushed into a wallet or a QR or barcode that are scanned at the point of sale. And then what we're doing at Sezzle is ultimately more of a consistent experience that is this multi-use virtual card. So you push it to your Apple or Google Wallet one time and tap it in store, and the transaction amount, the total amount in real time at that tap is broken into interest-free installment payments. And that's really where we're trying to move the needle, is to create a very consistent experience for customers that's very similar to them pulling out a different type of card that they might have in their wallet or virtual wallet, and breaking that into those installment payments that they have become accustomed to paying online and as well as now in store. So that's really where we're trying to move the needle and continue to leverage the technology that retailers are adopting with NFC technology in store.
And we're seeing so many big advances in the world of fintech at the moment. So are there any emerging technologies that will further transform the buy now, pay later space, or anything in particular that is exciting you about the industry at the moment?
Yeah, I think NFC contactless payments, they're not necessarily new or emerging technology, but you still don't see it at every store that you go into today. Some, still don't have a EMV chip insert. They're still doing swipe only. But the PCI Security Council, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, they ultimately mandate how merchants and issuers and everybody else on the card network uses their systems and ultimately keep card data secure. And there is a large update that's anticipated to come out on the PCI standards in Q1 of 2022. And that's often going to lead retailers to upgrade their point of sale systems. And so while it's not necessarily new technology, I think we're going to continue to see a lot of rollouts of these contactless NFC payments, and the ubiquity of NFC is going to become a lot larger than it is today. I think alternatively, there is in some markets a huge demand from both merchants and customers on QR and barcode-based solutions. Ultimately, for us, it's important that the experience is the same every time you walk into a store. There's not a store where you pay by a QR code. There's not one where you pay by NFC. And in payments, ubiquity of acceptance is really the name of the game. And so we're really excited about this continued rollout of NFC, but we are definitely keeping an eye on different opportunities for QR or barcode as there becomes a ubiquitous solution for acceptance.
And I think because of the pandemic, it must be about 18 months since I last went to the US. But I remember when I did last go, I think it was Chicago, around about St. Patrick's Day, just before everything closed down. I remember that when compared to Europe, where everything seems to be chip and pin and contactless, the US in a lot of places was a little bit behind. Is all that changing now, especially with the pandemic?
Yeah, I think the pandemic just definitely created an opportunity for retailers to upgrade systems that maybe weren't being used as much as they were in store. But there was also a lot of technology focus with those retailers on just bolstering their online presence. And so I think that as the tender shifts back into in-store, to a certain extent there. And with this rollout of PCI, you're going to continue to see more and more contactless payments begin to be accepted. I do think that it is still a little bit behind here in the US, but I think that it's rapidly catching up. And I think that what companies like Sezzle are doing is helping drive that change and saying, if you want to continue to or begin accepting the types of payment solutions that your customers are looking for, it's going to require a bit of an upgrade into your system, which often is something that they've been putting off for a while and are going to have more benefits than just offering buy now, pay later. So that's ultimately what we're hoping to see over the next year here.
Excellent. Well, I've loved chatting with you today and learning more about Sezzle. But before I let you go, it's time to have a little bit of fun. We started our conversation today talking about your origin story, what put you on this path. But I'm now going to ask you, what was the soundtrack to your career in technology? Is there a particular song or piece of music that has inspired you or accompanied you along your tech journey? If you could give me a song and a reason why that is important to you, we'll add it to our Spotify playlist. Does anything spring to mind?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of house and electronic music, and ultimately, as somebody that sits down and writes a lot of code, that's something I spend a fair bit of time listening to. And I very much appreciate Daft Punk and a lot of their music. And one, just as a founder and creator that I've appreciated, is Giorgio by Morador, which was a interview and monologue that they recorded of Morador, who is sometimes dubbed as the father of disco. And so it's a bit of a fun play on kind of the building of something, and in this case, the building of a genre. So that one's definitely been fun to listen to, and has, in the same way that it's a tribute to Morador by the Daft Punk team, I think it's very cool to pay a little bit of tribute to somebody who has helped build the genre.
Love that. What a great choice. I'll be adding that to the playlist. And for anyone listening, wherever they are in the world, wants to find out more information about Sezzle, what's the best way of finding you online, contacting your team? What's the best starting point?
Yeah, absolutely. For a good starting point is Sezzle.com. Or if you're looking at offering Sezzle to your customers, sales@Sezzle.com is a great email address to reach out to. Or if you're actually looking for a role, we have a lot open across our team. Careers@Sezzle.com or our Sezzle.com/careers web pages are great places to check us out.
I love chatting with you. I love learning more about the buy now, play later phenomenon, how it's gathering speed, but also around cashless convenience, that touchless experience at the cash register as we start entering stores again, especially with more tap-to-pay tools and improving that overall contactless experience. Incredibly exciting where we're going. I'm curious where it's all going to lead to. Maybe get you back on in 6 months and see how your journey's going. But more than anything, just thanks for joining me today, Killian.
Absolutely. Really appreciate the time. Thanks, Neil.
With buy now, pay later payment platforms doing so well at the moment, and big tech companies such as Apple, Google and Amazon all hopping on the same bandwagon too, I'm curious, do you think we'll see tech giants demolish the playing field through such partnerships, or will they acquire smaller startups with innovative capabilities just to own the market long term? And also, where do you stand on buy now, pay it later? Are you from the school of thought that, hey, it's a great thing, it helps you stagger payments and make things much more affordable? Or are you old school and prefer to save, only buy it when you have the money? There ain't no right and wrong answer, no judgment here. I'm just curious to do a quick straw poll and ask you your opinions, your experiences, etc. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram @Neil C. Hughes. Keep those messages coming in. I love to hear from you all. I'll give you a shout out on the show too, so keep those messages coming in. But other than that, it's time for me to put the heating on and go make myself a warm drink. Winter's coming. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.